Is a nation-state level Bitcoin panic upon us? Well, Gen 3 CEO Samson Mow just dropped a nuke stating Bitcoin adoption by nation-states is about to enter a sudden phase. He even mentioned Paraguay as a major domino to fall, and guess what? Boom! Paraguay's central bank is now weighing Bitcoin for national reserves. And they're not alone. Those head-banging, death metal-loving Swedes are also knocking on Satoshi's door. And when it comes to gradually, then suddenly, Samson isn't alone. Hedge fund titan Charles Edwards just said a 120K Bitcoin breakout will lead to a, quote, very quick move to 150K. Even the establishment knows. So when Strive's CEO says, quote, in 5 years you won't be able to stack like this again, and when Congress is mulling eliminating capital gains on Bitcoin payments, you know you're not in Kansas anymore. Holy crap! Is it coming? You know what I'm talking about. Is it coming?
We're going to see Samson proved correct with his Omega candle, and we're going to see a 5 or a 10x overnight. We're just going to set the floor at $1 million.
Omega candle. Omega candle. Omega candle.
The Omega candle is a 100K candle. It just goes to show that the Bitcoin price movements are becoming bigger and bigger.
Omega candle.
Omega candle.
Omega candle.
The Omega candle.
The Omega's coming. I'm 100% convinced of it.
If you're not 100% convinced, maybe you will be by the end of this show. Is the nation-state panic coming to Bitcoin? Well, strap in, because we're about to find out. Sunday!
Everyone was thinking like institutions were going to start piling in, and we saw one or two, and then like really it wasn't until the last 12 months where we've seen real institutional adoption of Bitcoin. Do you think nation states may be similar in the sense that we may just be like a cycle early, and in a few years we'll start seeing a lot of these nation states actually piling into Bitcoin?
Well, there's like two parts to that question. So this cycle doesn't seem to have played out. We're behind schedule. We should have had a bull run already, like a massive run up, and we're down actually at the time of this recording. So I think this cycle, if you want to call it a cycle, is delayed. It might push into next year for whatever various reasons there are. But I think the nation-state adoption is coming. We're pushing on a lot of fronts. Other companies and people are pushing too. There are concrete examples of what Bitcoin can do to benefit a country out there right now. The moves in the US, I think, have yet to propagate throughout the world. So Trump did create the SBR, but they haven't started buying yet. And we are talking with other countries to do the same. There are a few that have said they will create it. And I think it's all coming. It's really that these things happen very quickly. It's like literally gradually and then suddenly. And I think we're on the tail end of gradually, and we're at the beginning phases of suddenly. And if you look at just the US alone, they're pushing forward on a lot of their budget neutral Bitcoin acquisition and the Bitcoin Act too. So I believe it's simply a matter of time before we see a massive run up and we see a massive nation state FOMO panic.
Sometimes things really take a turn for the bullish. And Samson Mow just dropped the signal. We're moving from the gradual phase of nation-state adoption straight into the sudden phase. Translation, strap the hell in. Mow says governments are about to scramble for sats like it's the last roll of toilet paper in 2020. He points to Latin America leading the charge. Countries fighting inflation and broken money are now eyeing Bitcoin reserves. Fidelity even backs this up, saying central banks will soon be forced to stack. And while the U.S. hasn't even started buying yet, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Executive Order is already on the books. The powder is there. It just hasn't been lit. Mao admits the bull run feels delayed, but when nation states start FOMOing into Bitcoin, the chart isn't going to look like a line anymore. It's going to look like a hockey stick. Samson Mow also mentioned a specific South American nation he believed would be a major domino to fall.
Latin America. It's the most ripe area of the world to significantly do something with Bitcoin, because you have energy, the energy part of the equation, you have the general stability, political stability, and you have the need. So you put all those things together and it just makes it the perfect place. And I think we just need a few more dominoes to drop if things pan out in Paraguay the way we hope, I think that's a big domino, and countries in the surrounding area would likely come as well.
Well, would you look at that? Paraguay's central bank weighing Bitcoin for national reserves. Maybe nation-state panic isn't so much a theory anymore. Look at this. Swedish lawmakers just proposed a national Bitcoin reserve. 2 members of the Sweden Democrats, that's the second largest party in the Riksdag, have submitted a motion calling for an investigation into how to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve. They want to know which authorities should manage it. And they even added, don't change legal tender and don't roll out a CBDC. That's right, Sweden, the country that once looked like it was sprinting towards central bank digital slavery, is now openly talking about holding Bitcoin as digital gold. Lawmakers argue it would diversify state holdings, hedge inflation, and position Sweden for what they call a disruptive shift in the global financial system. And they're not alone. Momentum for state and national Bitcoin reserves is exploding. The US has its SBR order. Bhutan and El Salvador are already stacking. Texas and Arizona passed their own state reserve laws. And now Europe is catching the fever. So yeah, Sweden might just be the first domino to fall inside the EU. When you see politicians who were once cautious suddenly talking about Bitcoin as a reserve asset, that's probably nothing. But do you know why nations are adopting Bitcoin? Well, maybe it's because they're trying to escape poverty. Here we go. And if you think that's bullish enough, just wait, because while countries are lining up for Bitcoin reserves, the analysts are starting to crank their forecasts higher. Bitcoin may surge to a new all-time high of 150K before the end of 2025, according to Capital Investments founder Charles Edwards. He says investors are piling into safe haven assets, not just gold anymore, but Bitcoin right alongside it. Now 150K sounds conservative compared to what others are calling for. Some analysts are looking for this cycle to push over 200K, or in Samson's case, prepare for Omega.
If you look at the failure of fiat currencies, they don't gradually fail. They fail spectacularly. And this is the premise behind the 1 million Bitcoin call, that it's not going to be a gradual, slow increase to $1 million a coin, but rather a very short and violent upheaval that sends us there in a matter of months, weeks to months. And if you look at the hyper-Bitcoinization landscape, what you do see is more and more countries coming out and mining Bitcoin. Bhutan, I think, is the clearest example of this. They have close to $1 trillion now in Bitcoin holdings from mining over the past 4 to 5 years. So if this is not an indication that hyper-Bitcoinization is coming, I'm not really sure what is. But countries that have excess energy, they can tap into that now and convert that into money and use that money for financing lots of different things. I believe we're also on the verge of countries issuing debt, sovereign debt, to buy Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin bond program, it is going to come simply because the MicroStrategy model has illustrated that this works, and it works very well. And it's just simply a matter of time before a country pulls that trigger and unleashes a torrent of sovereign debt to acquire Bitcoin.
Then we have Bitwise's head of European research, Andre Dragic, told Cointelegraph that US 401k retirement plans could unlock $122 billion of new capital into Bitcoin. Think about that. If retirement managers gave Bitcoin just a 1% allocation, he said that would be enough to send Bitcoin flying past 200K before the end of the year. So whether you're talking Sweden stacking sats, Paraguay sparking a regional wave, or Wall Street retirement funds dripping Bitcoin into pensions, the writing is on the wall. We might just be entering the sudden phase of adoption, which means we could be staring straight down the barrel of a supply shock. Meaning, Saylor, Fink, governments, and us will not be able to stack sats like this for much longer. We're about to bring it home today, but before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe. I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Let's take a quick second for our sponsors who keep this show on the air over at the Bitcoin Way. If your wealth lives in their system, it's not yours, it's theirs. That's why we scream Bitcoin. That's why you self-custody. That's why you call our friends at the Bitcoin Way. They'll walk you through multi-sig, self-custody, privacy, how to run a node, and the tools that keep you sovereign when the fiat system pulls the plug. Don't wait till it's too late. Book a free 30-minute consult today using that link in the show notes. Need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin? Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, issuing over $9 billion in loans since 2018, and they were the first to offer proof of reserves. With Ledn, you get custody loans, no credit checks, no monthly payments, and more. Visit learn.ledn.io/simply to learn more and get 25 basis points off your first loan.
We think that the digital gold rush is a 10 to 15 year phenomenon, and over time it's going to be harder and harder to stack sats for these companies. And so that's why we do think it is early that people that are able to get going are able to build pretty large stacks of Bitcoin. But I think the focus, and you see this focus across this room, is stack sats. There's a million ways you can monetize a massive balance sheet over time, but that exercise is fruitless right now during the digital gold rush era, because to your point, in 5 years you won't be able to get anything close to what you can get today.
Fixed supply means you gotta catch them while you can. And what's this? They're talking about eliminating capital gains on Bitcoin payments in Congress?
Mr. Ledn, do you have anything in particular that you think would do harm if we would put something in legislation?
Thank you, Senator. I think that my theme is that there's a lot of potential for over-reporting. We spend a lot of time on that, even in this discussion about de minimis and with stablecoins itself. There's an enormous potential. This is a democratized form of financial asset class where people can use things in ways that weren't done before. And there's a tremendous potential there for over-reporting and burdening the system. It's burdening the system for taxpayers, and it's burdening the system for the IRS. So let's take reporting today, and if you enhance this by over-reporting, by not including a de minimis rule, you're going to have billions of transactions that taxpayers are going to have to report, keep track of. I don't think most taxpayers are prepared for that result. It'll probably hinder the growth of the industry. It will also
when you talk about reporting, again, I want to always keep things as simple as possible. The whole blockchain is based on pretty complex computers, which we have now. So hopefully we could be able to use something like that. Ms. Nellen, representing the AICPA, I would ask you, same question in terms of there's...
You know, it's almost like the potential of Bitcoin to be the default cash system of the internet is so extraordinary. You would argue the risk is not owning Bitcoin. The risk is not owning Bitcoin.
Like, everyone goes, Bitcoin is a bubble. It's tulips. Okay, tulips was the bubble in tulips in Amsterdam in 1630. That bubble in Amsterdam, where is the center of the global flower industry today? It is in Holland. The Netherlands has been the center of the global flower industry for 400 years. That tulip bubble brought 400 years of prosperity to Amsterdam. So to call it tulips is actually a compliment, not an insult. And then you go, what is a bubble? Well, I'll tell you what a bubble is. A bubble is a bull market in which you don't have a position. It is a psychological way of justifying that you didn't invest in something to call it a bubble. So you can call it a bubble and you can dismiss it. But the potential of Bitcoin to be the default cash system of the internet and the default savings vehicle of the internet is so extraordinary, I would argue that the risk is not owning Bitcoin, the risk is not owning Bitcoin, if that makes sense. Everyone should have an allocation in their portfolio. And don't try and use the fact that I don't understand it as an excuse. Because most people don't understand how the combustion engine works, and they still own a car. Most people don't understand hypertext transfer protocol, and they still use the internet.
Is a nation-state level Bitcoin panic upon us? Let us know down below. Samson Mow says we're entering the sudden phase. Paraguay's central bank is weighing Bitcoin. Sweden's lawmakers are knocking on Satoshi's door. Fund titans are calling for $150K and higher. Wall Street retirement funds are loading up the cannons. And Congress is even talking about eliminating capital gains on Bitcoin payments. The signal is pretty clear. The world's governments, banks, and pensions are coming for the 21 million. The question is, will you front run them? And will you be heading to Mining Disrupt 2025? See the future of Bitcoin mining up close in Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th. The biggest names in the industry, cutting-edge rigs, Bitcoin, and AI integration. The signal you won't get anywhere else. Grab your tickets today and use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off, and we'll see you there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp, and set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin news delivered to you daily. Sophie, Dante, Oceans, they all got great stuff coming your way, so stay tuned. I love you guys. See you Monday. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.